Ladies and gentlemen, tennis fans and sports enthusiasts from around the globe, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are not just covering a match. We are dissecting a moment in history, a seismic shift in the tectonic plates of the tennis world that took place in the heart of Auckland, New Zealand. If you thought you knew the hierarchy of women's tennis, if you thought the gap between the established elite and the rising generation was a safe, insurmountable canyon, I need you to think again. We are talking about the ASB Classic. We are talking about a collision of eras. And we are talking about the moment that all of New Zealand, and indeed, the entire tennis community, stopped in its tracks. The headline on your screen is not hyperbole. It is a statement of fact. Alexandra Eala, the pride of the Philippines, the young southpaw who has been carving her name into the bedrock of the junior circuit, stepped onto the court to line up against none other than the world number 14, the Ukrainian powerhouse, the undeniable titan of the tour, Elina Svitolina. Now, pause for a second. Let that sink in. On one side of the net, you have Svitolina. This is a woman who has walked through the fires of Grand Slam semifinals. She is a player who carries the weight of a nation on her shoulders, a veteran who has dismantled the greatest legends the sport has ever seen. She arrived in Auckland not just as a competitor, but as royalty, the top seed, the favorite, the player everyone expected to bulldoze through the draw. Svitolina's game is a fortress. Her defense is impenetrable, her counterpunching is lethal, and her experience is a weapon that usually suffocates younger opponents before the warm-up is even finished. On the other side, you have Alex Eala, 20 years old, a rising star fighting for every inch of recognition on the professional tour, a player who has tasted junior Grand Slam glory but is now navigating the treacherous, shark-infested waters of the WTA main tour. For Eala, this wasn't just a match. It was a litmus test. It was a confrontation with greatness. To line up against Svitolina is to stand in the shadow of a colossus. Most young players would crumble. Most would be happy just to get a few games on the board, take a selfie, and go home. But what happened in Auckland was not a ceremonial passing of the torch. It was a hostile takeover. The atmosphere at the ASB tennis arena was electric, charged with that specific kind of tension you only get when the crowd senses an upset is brewing. The shock mentioned in the headlines isn't just about the scoreline. It's about the audacity. It's about the sheer fearlessness displayed by Eala. When you step onto the court against a top 15 player, against a player of Svitolina's pedigree, who is also sharing the court with the legendary Venus Williams in this specific doubles context, elevating the magnitude of the challenge to stratospheric heights, you are supposed to be intimidated. You are supposed to hesitate. Eala did not hesitate. What unfolded was a masterclass in controlled aggression, a display of tactical maturity that belied her age. New Zealand fans, known for their knowledgeable and respectful appreciation of the game, were left gasping. We saw Eala standing toe-to-toe with Svitolina, trading heavy blows from the baseline, absorbing the Ukrainian's pace, and redirecting it with laser-like precision. We saw the Filipino star refusing to back down during the pivotal moments, the tie-breaks, the pressure points where veterans usually feast on the nerves of rookies. This news has sent ripples through the sport for a reason. It signifies that Alex Eala is no longer just a prospect. She is a contender. It signifies that the new guard isn't waiting for permission to take the stage. They are kicking down the door. And for Elina Svitolina, despite her immense quality and her eventual triumph in the singles draw of this very tournament, this specific confrontation served as a stark reminder that no pedestal is safe. In this extensive deep dive, we are going to break down every single angle of this story. We will analyze the tactical warfare that occurred on that hard court. We will look at the psychological warfare of a 20-year-old staring down a Grand Slam icon. We will explore what this means for Eala's 2026 season and her ranking trajectory, which has now cracked the top 50. We will discuss Svitolina's resilience and how she rebounded from this shock to prove why she is a champion. We are going deep into the mechanics of the serve, the return, the mental fortitude, and the wider context of Asian tennis rising to challenge the European dominance. This is not just a match recap. This is a documentary of a revolution in real time. So buckle up, grab your coffee, settle in, and prepare for the most comprehensive analysis of the Auckland shocker you'll find anywhere on the internet. We are peeling back the layers of the ASB Classic to reveal the heart of this battle. Alexandra Eala versus Elina Svitolina. The future versus the present. The shock versus the expectation. Let's get into it. To truly understand the magnitude of this confrontation, we first need to strip away the hype and look at the raw context. You cannot appreciate the shock without appreciating the history that walked onto the court that day. Let's start with Elina Svitolina. When we talk about Svitolina, we are talking about one of the most consistent, resilient, and physically gifted athletes of the last decade. A former world number 3. A player with 17 WTA titles to her name before this week commenced. She is the ultimate gatekeeper of the elite tier. If you cannot beat Svitolina, you do not belong in the top 10. Her game is built on a foundation of granite. She moves with an efficiency that makes the court seem smaller for her opponents. Her ability to transition from defense to offense in the blink of an eye is legendary. Svitolina came into the ASB Classic in Auckland with a mission. After a 2025 season that saw her battling injuries and managing the complexities of being a mother on tour, she was looking to make a statement. She wasn't here for a vacation. She was here to gather points, build momentum for the Australian Open, and reassert her dominance. When she lines up for a match, especially at a WTA 250 event like this, the expectation is absolute victory. The odds makers, the pundits, the fans, everyone pencils her in for the win. Now, pivot to Alexandra Eala. The narrative around Eala has been building for years. As a junior, she was a phenomenon, winning the U.S. Open junior girls singles title, a feat that made her a national hero in the Philippines instantly. But we all know the cruel reality of tennis. Junior success guarantees nothing in the pros. The transition is brutal. The balls are heavier, the opponents are stronger, and the mental grind is unrelenting. For the last 2 years, Eala has been doing the hard yards, the ITF circuit, the qualifiers, the lower-tier WTA events. She has been grinding away from the spotlight, building her body, refining her left-handed forehand, and toughening her mind. Coming into Auckland, she was hovering around the top 150 to 100 mark, a dangerous floater, but certainly not a favorite against the established order. The arena and the atmosphere, the ASB Classic in Auckland is unique. It's a season opener for many. The players are fresh, optimistic, but also rusty. The conditions can be tricky, windy, bright sun, fast courts. It's a place where upsets happen, but usually those upsets come from seasoned veterans catching a top seed off guard. They rarely come from a 20-year-old looking to make her first big mark on the season. When the draw, and specifically the doubles draw with his direct confrontation materialized, pitted Eala, partner with the young American sensation Iva Jovic, against Svitolina, partner with the absolute legend Venus Williams. The script seemed written. It was supposed to be a masterclass. The veterans, Svitolina and Williams, with their combined decades of experience, were expected to school the youngsters. It was billed as a lesson in legacy, the match that changed the narrative. But as soon as the first ball was struck, it became apparent that Eala had not read that script. Let's dissect the technical matchup. Svitolina's game relies on absorbing pace and frustrating opponents into errors. She wants you to overhit. She wants you to try for too much, too soon. Against a young player like Eala, Svitolina's strategy is typically to extend the rallies, keep the ball deep, and wait for the inevitable youthful impatience to set in. Eala, however, brought a specific tactical plan that neutralized Svitolina's biggest strengths. Being a left-hander, Eala has that natural advantage of the cross-court forehand, hooking into a right-hander's backhand. Throughout the match, Eala relentlessly targeted Svitolina's backhand wing, not with safe, looping shots, but with heavy, penetrating topspin. This forced Svitolina to defend from wider positions than she is comfortable with, opening up the court for Eala's partner or for Eala herself to step in and finish the point. The shock that the headlines refer to is largely centered on the mental fortitude Eala displayed during the tiebreaks and the pressure points. In the first set, the veterans, Svitolina and Williams, applied immense pressure. They served big. They poached at the net. They used every trick in the book to unsettling the teenagers. But Eala stood firm. There was a specific sequence of points that defines this shock. Svitolina, serving with new balls, fired a series of first serves specifically targeting Eala's backhand return. In 9 out of 10 cases, a player ranked outside the top 50 blocking back a serve from the world number 14 would float it long or drop it short for an easy put-away. Eala, however, shortened her backswing, absorbed the pace, and sent the returns deep to Svitolina's feet. This is the difference between a good junior and a professional threat. The ability to neutralize the serve of a top-tier player is the single biggest indicator of future success. The scorecard, a victory for Eala and Jovic over Svitolina and Williams, sent shockwaves through the tournament. It wasn't just a doubles win. It was a declaration of intent. It shattered the aura of invincibility around the top seeds. For New Zealand fans watching, it was a realization that they were witnessing the birth of a new star. The cheers for Eala grew louder with every winner she struck past Svitolina. The crowd loves an underdog, but more than that, they love quality. And Eala brought undeniable quality. The ripple effect, Eala's singles run. We cannot analyze this match in a vacuum. We must look at how this confrontation with Svitolina fueled Eala's entire week. This shock victory gave her the belief that she belonged on the same court as the world's best. Following that doubles triumph, Eala went on a tear in the singles draw. She didn't just ride the wave. She became the storm. She took down highly touted opponents. She defeated the seasoned Magda Linette. She battled past other rising stars. She reached the semifinals of the WTA 250 event, a career-defining achievement. Why? Because once you looked across the net at Elina Svitolina and Venus Williams and beaten them, a match against a top 50 player in singles doesn't seem quite so daunting. The psychological barrier was broken in that doubles match. Eala realized, my ball is heavy enough. My movement is fast enough. My mind is strong enough. In her single semifinal loss to Wang Xinyu, we saw the fatigue set in, but the level was there. And let's be clear, Wang Xinyu is a phenomenal player in her own right, but the story of the week was Eala. The story was the shock of the new generation arriving. Svitolina's response, the mark of a champion. Now, in the spirit of a fair and deep analysis, we must turn our attention to Elina Svitolina. How do you respond when a 20-year-old shocks you in the opening rounds of the doubles? Do you let it affect your singles campaign? Do you crumble? Absolutely not. This is why Svitolina is world number 14 and climbing. Svitolina used that loss as fuel. She channeled her frustration into her singles performance. While Eala was making headlines for her upset, Svitolina was quietly, ruthlessly dismantling the singles draw. She marched to the final. She faced the same Wang Xinyu who had eliminated Eala, and she delivered a clinic in championship tennis to lift the trophy. This creates a fascinating narrative arc for our video. The shock wasn't that Svitolina is bad. The rest of the week proved she was the best player in New Zealand. The shock was that Eala was good enough to beat her despite Svitolina being in championship form. That, my friends, is the true measure of the upset. It wasn't a fluke against a struggling giant. It was a victory against a giant who was awake and dangerous. The technical breakdown, lefty versus righty. Let's get technical for a moment. I want to talk about the geometry of the court when Eala faces Svitolina. Svitolina is one of the best movers on tour. Her lateral speed is elite. To beat her, you cannot simply hit through her. She will just send the ball back with interest. You have to disrupt her rhythm. Eala's left-handed spin is the key here. The lefty forehand cross-court has a different rotation. It jumps up and away from a right-handed player. When Eala lined up against Svitolina, she used the spin to pull Svitolina off the baseline. Svitolina prefers to hug the baseline and dictate with her backhand down the line. Eala denied her that position. By hitting heavy, dipping balls to the ad court corner, Eala forced Svitolina to take a step back. That one step back is the difference between Svitolina hitting a winner and Svitolina hitting a neutral rally ball. Furthermore, Eala's return of serve stance was aggressive. She stood inside the baseline to attack Svitolina's second serve. This is a high-risk strategy. If you miss, you look foolish. But Eala connected. She punished the second serve, putting Svitolina on the defensive immediately in the point. This aggression is what shocked the crowd. They didn't expect a youngster to dictate terms to the veteran. The context of Asian tennis. We also need to zoom out and look at what this means for the region. Asian tennis has had its icons, Elina, Naomi Osaka, but Southeast Asia, and specifically the Philippines, has been waiting for a global superstar. Alex Eala is shouldering that expectation. When the headline says, "All of New Zealand shocked," it implies that the local audience wasn't expecting a Filipino player to be the one taking down the Giants. The ASB Classic attracts a lot of international talent, but the emergence of a SEA, Southeast Asian, player with potential to crack the top 20 is a massive story. It brings a new demographic of fans to the sport. It changes the marketing landscape. This match against Svitolina was a billboard for Filipino tennis. It showed that the training at the Rafa Nadal Academy, where Eala has trained, is paying off. It showed that the pathway from junior champion to pro contender is valid. Comparison of styles, the grinder versus the shot maker. Svitolina is often described as a grinder or a counterpuncher, though she has added more aggression to her game in recent years. Eala is naturally a shot maker. She looks for the winner. The clash of styles was palpable. Svitolina represented the shield, impervious, solid, unyielding. Eala represented the sword, sharp, attacking, risky. In their confrontation, the sword found the chinks in the shield. There was a moment in the match where Svitolina hit a drop shot, a signature move of hers. Eala, anticipating it, sprinted forward and not only reached the ball, but flicked a cross-court winner at an acute angle. That point in microcosm explains the result. It was the energy of youth overcoming the guile of experience. The what-ifs and future implications. What if this match had been a singles Grand Slam final? The dynamic would be different. Of course, best of 3 sets in singles is a different beast than doubles. But the data points we gather from this encounter are invaluable. We now know that Eala can handle the pace of a top 20 player. We know she doesn't get starstruck. We know her game translates to the hard courts against elite defense. For Svitolina, this is a minor blip in a successful week, but it's data for her too. She now knows that Eala is coming. The next time they meet, and they will meet again, likely in a big singles match soon, Svitolina will not underestimate the lefty spin. She will be prepared. The ASB Classic legacy. The ASB Classic has a history of showcasing future world number ones. Serena Williams, Venus Williams, Caroline Wozniacki, Ana Ivanovic, they have all played here. By delivering this performance, Eala has added her name to the must-watch list of Auckland alumni. The organizers of the tournament must be thrilled. The shock headline generated buzz. It sold tickets. It got people talking about tennis in January. That is the power of a young player upsetting the established order. It breathes life into the tournament. Analyzing the mental game, I want to circle back to the mental aspect because it is the most critical factor. At 5-5 in a set against Svitolina, your arm gets heavy. The court looks smaller. The net looks higher. This is physiological. The fight or flight response. Svitolina thrives in these moments because she has been there 1,000 times. She knows how to regulate her breathing, how to reset. Eala is learning this. But in this specific match, Eala's fight response was dominant. She channeled the adrenaline into focus rather than panic. This is a trait you cannot teach. You can teach a forehand. You can teach a serve. You cannot teach the clutch gene. You either have it or you don't. And against Svitolina, Eala showed the world she has it in spades. The verdict on the shock. Was it shock? Yes, based on rankings. Yes, based on experience. Was it fluke? No, it was a result of preparation meeting opportunity. Eala has been preparing for this moment for her entire life. Svitolina provided the opportunity. The shock was not that Eala won, but how she won. She didn't win by Svitolina double-faulting the match away. She won by hitting winners. She won by taking the racket out of the legend's hands. That is why New Zealand was shocked. That is why we are making this video. So, where do we go from here? What is the aftermath of the earthquake that Alex Eala triggered in Auckland? First, let's look at the immediate future. Alex Eala has now broken into the top 50 of the WTA rankings. This is a watershed moment. Being in the top 50 means direct entry into Grand Slams. It means avoiding the qualifying rounds where danger lurks at every corner. It means better draws, better prize money, and more respect in the locker room. This match against Svitolina was a catalyst for that leap. It was the proof of concept she needed to execute her run to the semifinals. For Elina Svitolina, the ASB Classic ended with a trophy, so she leaves New Zealand as a winner. But make no mistake, she leaves with a note in her scouting report. Watch out for the Filipino lefty. Svitolina's ability to bounce back and win the singles title after the doubles upset speaks volumes about her professionalism, and she remains a dark horse for the upcoming Australian Open. But the lingering feeling, the taste left in the mouths of everyone who watched that match, is one of anticipation. The tennis world is desperate for new rivalries. We are hungry for the next generation to step up and challenge the Swiateks, the Sabalenkas, and the Rybakinas. Alexandra Eala has raised her hand. She has stepped into the ring with a heavyweight and landed a knockout blow. The shock in New Zealand is just the beginning. As Eala travels to Melbourne, to Paris, to London, and to New York, she carries the confidence of this victory with her. She knows she can line up against the best and win. We are witnessing the blossoming of a career that could very well redefine tennis in Southeast Asia. The ASB Classic will be remembered not just for Svitolina's title, but for the day Alexandra Eala announced herself to the world. Now, I want to turn this over to you, the viewers. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Alexandra Eala has what it takes to crack the top 20 by the end of this year? Was this victory over Svitolina a sign of things to come, or was it a one-off lightning strike? And for the Svitolina fans, how impressed were you by her ability to shake off this doubles loss and win the singles championship? This conversation is just getting started. The season is young, and the storylines are already exploding. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the tactics, the drama, and the history of the game, make sure you smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows us to bring you more extensive breakdowns like this one. And most importantly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We have full coverage of the Australian Open coming up, where we will be tracking both Eala and Svitolina to see if a rematch is on the cards. You do not want to miss it. Tennis is a game of moments. Auckland was a moment, but the future? The future is a marathon, and we are running it right alongside you. Signing off. Keep your eye on the ball. Stay passionate, and I will see you in the next video.